Hello, viewers. This is Eugene Classic Podcast. Today, we are going to have a controversial discussions on science, technology, and climate change. And I have here with me my man, Andrew Hall. Thanks for gifting us with your presence, Andrew.
Eugene, thank you for having me.
So, would you introduce yourself?
The reason I'm coming on here today, I'm going to be talking about a lot of important topics pertaining to our society. I graduated university with something called a degree in science and technology studies, which largely analyzes the social factors that influence major scientific and technological decisions, as well as kind of give you an insight into why people believe something that they would. Today I want to go over a bunch of philosophical topics with you. I want to talk about climate change and different other socio-political factors that affect climate change and what that means for our society.
Okay, to even begin, when we talk about climate change, what actually is climate change per your personal definition?
So the idea behind climate change is that we as humans are creating industrial processes or using some type of technology that is polluting the environment and putting us in some type of doomsday scenario where the emissions of the planet create a runaway global warming effect, where the atmosphere becomes too thick and the sunlight cannot escape. So the earth would become too hot for humans to habitate, so to say.
Okay. And I wanted to ask, looking at this information age,
Yes.
as compared to the Industrial Revolution that happened many years ago,
Right.
I want you to analyze how these industrial processes has caused decrease in air quality. I want to know your views about all these whole complexities and multifaceted.
So the Industrial Revolution is largely blamed or climate change is largely blamed on the Industrial Revolution, because the Industrial Revolution saw us go from a time of small tradesmen opening shops to do what you needed to large-scale industrial processes. And that was made largely possible by the invention of new technology. The idea that you could industrialize large amounts of manufacturing on a particular item, like if you wanted to make shoes before the Industrial Revolution, you'd have to go into a shoemaker and they would make your shoes by hand on the spot. Whereas the Industrial Revolution allowed a machine to make the shoes or people to work the machine. So you could create, 7,000 pairs of shoes in a day in a factory, whereas a shoemaker could make maybe, 2-3 pairs of shoes for the whole shop for the day, right?
Okay. So personally, to you, you think that these industrial processes cause negative consequences or had a negative impact on the environment?
As a whole, the Industrial Revolution did make a lot of negative impact on the environment as a whole. However, it created a lot of easier times in your life in the fact that you could mass produce something for cheaper and at less resource costs than you could before. So it was kind of climbing people that normally wouldn't be able to have shoes. Now these people could have shoes because it was cheaper and readily more available. So that's kind of the argument centered around climate change right now, is that you could potentially you could potentially destroy the planet at the cost of boosting up the economy, right? So it's largely become more of a political thing than anything, as you'll see it kind of being intertrenched in the gas companies don't necessarily want climate change to be kind of the forefront of political discussion, because it kind of regulates what they're doing and regulates their industry. So a country like Canada taking such a strong stance on climate change kind of puts us in a position that we have one of the largest oil reserves in the world, and yet we can't extract it or readily move it between us and one of the biggest consumers to the south, right?
Oh. So I want to ask this simple question.
Yes.
Do you think that the Industrial Revolution has done more harm than good?
That's a really tough question. I mean, if you can, it all depends on your mindset. Like if you're a hardcore leftist and you don't necessarily agree with the kind of like destruction of nature, rampant consumerism, uncapped growth, or that kind of thing. If you don't think these things are feasible or naturally sustainable, then you're probably going to be against it, right? But if you see the success of a society based in the economic growth and the more kind of value you're adding or things of value into society at a more readily available and cheaper cost than it would be. So right now, if you look at the Ontario government, or the Canadian government rather, so the Canadian government spent since 2021, they've allocated $5.3 billion to climate change. Now, where does this money go in? It's going into green initiatives. It's going into upgrading your furnace to a heat pump. It's going into insulating your windows and doors. It's going into new technology. It's going into industrial processes, cleaning up industrial processes, auditing people, estimating the damage, that sort of thing. So the entire Ontario government I believe it was under the Kathleen Wynne government, they brought in a climate change advisor and paid them $400,000 for a 3 months period as purely an advisory role. All they did was assess the damage and give an advisory on what Ontario should do about that. So when you have people in a city where a million people in this city are living below the poverty line, is that our best use of resources?
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yeah. So at the same time I say this, I studied the social science of science. I didn't necessarily study the science behind climate change. So even though I do know the gist of it, I couldn't get deep into it with you. However, I do know certain things are kind of established, like the amount of carbon in the atmosphere will have an effect on plant growth. So if there's more carbon in the atmosphere, plants will grow more. If there's less carbon in the atmosphere, the plants will die off.
And
so if I was to, the two main philosophers around studying scientific, the sociology behind scientific and technological processes are a man named Bruno Latour. He was a Frenchman, and his main theory was the actor network theory. So what Bruno Latour would do he would kind of analyze everything independently of whether you're a living thing, you're a non-living thing. He made a description of how all the actors played out in society or played out in terms of that particular phenomenon. So it would be like, if you look at climate change, you could say the gas company and the machine that burns the gas are both looked at objectively. So then by examining all these actors in a particular like network regarding this science or piece of science or technology, he would come out with a theory that would kind of explain how they worked with each other. This affects this like this affects this like this affects this like this. So everything was kind of generally symmetrical in the analysis. But this was kind of conflicted with a man named by the name of David Bloor. So he made the STRONG program of reviewing this. So what David Bloor was saying, why do we think we know something? So when you look at like, why do you think you know my name's Andrew?
Yeah.
Because I told you my name was Andrew.
Yeah.
But I could easily lie to you. my name could be Bob, and I could have said my name was Andrew. Or I could give you a piece of my government ID, which could still be a lie, but I would have had to defraud the government. So my claim that my name is Andrew is more trustable because I gave you the ID, right?
Yes.
So with someone like David Bloor, he would examine that as, are you just saying this, or do you think you know this because of this reason? And then you can go back into that reason and see, were they acting as part of an institution? Were they acting for some particular cause? Were they acting to further their own agenda? Were they operating as part of a larger network as an actor in that thing? So by analyzing this, you're kind of trying to be symmetrical to both. You can analyze why somebody would think something's true in the same way that you would analyze the way somebody thinks something is false. So for something like climate change, it's very not as cut and dry. So when you look at the 98% consensus, what is the 98% consensus in your opinion?
98 consensus.
That humans are having an effect on, like when you say, if somebody were to call you, hey, you're a climate change denier, what do you think that would mean?
Unless you help me with that.
Yeah. So a climate change denier would be saying that the humans are having no effect on the climate, and then all the changes in the climate are from natural proportion.
How is that possible?
So the climate's always naturally changing. So if you look back 60 million years ago, the Antarctica was a lush green paradise.
Uh-huh.
And now we go back 60 million years after, and it's completely covered in ice.
But how can the climate naturally change on its own without having
There's
an external actor?
Yeah, so there's a lot of factors that play on the climate. There's like the solar maximum. So there's 11-year solar cycles where sometimes it puts out more energy, sometimes it puts out less energy. Our rotation around the planet, what planet is it wobbling? Our magnetosphere, if our magnetosphere is weaker or stronger at some points, it could let more radiation in. So days you see there's like a high UV days is because the sun's activity. It's based on what the sun's doing.
Based on what the sun is doing.
Right. So you'll see a planet like Mars.
I'll get it a bit. I know if you're leaning a bit, I'll just get it so you don't have to lean. So you just be more comfortable.
Yeah.
That should be perfect, right?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So yeah,
Where were we here?
the sun.
Oh yeah. So yeah, so when you get into stuff like that, there's more than just what humans are doing. Like if you go to Mars, like there's theories that there's liquid water there at some point melted off. So the universe is in a constant state of change. So during the first IPCC report,
Do you believe in the Big Bang theory? My apologies for interfering, but I needed to ask you as like someone who study philosophy.
do I believe in the Big Bang theory?
Yeah.
I wouldn't side to one way or another. I mean, I looked at the evidence behind it, and it makes a lot of sense considering what they know. But it's then again, it's just a theory, and like, where's the theory? It comes from like Edwin Hubble and the redshift, and seeing that everything was moving apart from each other to suggest that it all exploded from each other at one point. So like it would make sense, but doesn't necessarily have to be true.
Yeah.
There could be new information that could come out that could falsify that information. So there was another like kind of argument within the scientific philosophy community. There was a man named Karl Popper. He's pretty famous philosopher, and a man named Thomas Kuhn. So Karl Popper believed that the only way we could advance scientific knowledge was by falsifying things.
Falsifying things.
So by falsifying something, you could get one step closer to the truth because you know everything else is wrong. Whereas Thomas Kuhn believed that science was based on paradigms. So every time a new paradigm is created, then that everything branches off that paradigm. And whether it's right or wrong, stuff is still going to come out of that paradigm. So once you establish a paradigm, like the Big Bang Theory would be the paradigm in how the universe started, then that'll branch off other theories related to that original paradigm. But if you produce the original paradigm false, then you're right back into square one, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you that, what do you think, or have you observed over the years with your lived experience, the kind of activities that humans do to contribute to climate change?
Right. So
Not from any sources in literatures, personally,
right.
per your observation. I want like observer explanatory,
Right.
so that you can reduce this complex.
So the biggest thing that they're saying is affecting the climate is obviously burning fossil fuels. But there's a lot more. There's a lot more that are affecting the climate that are not just burning
That's
fossil
according
fuels.
to you, or according to other
If,
literatures?
if you look at like the hydro lines and everything out there, there's something that it produces called sulfur hexafluoride. So every molecule has a global warming potential associated with it. So the global warming potential is based on the standard of carbon dioxide, which has a global warming potential of 1. And then something like sulfur hexafluoride has like a global warming potential of something like 7,000, right? So the amount of global warming any molecule can give off is related to its molecular weight. So carbon dioxide is heavier than air, right? So it's more global warming, has more of a global warming potential than air itself or water, right? So the biggest greenhouse gas in our atmosphere is water. It composes 55% or 50% of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Yes.
So with this information that you are giving out,
Yes.
Among the population, how many percent do you think that they know about like water causing like 50% of this?
Very small amount.
Why?
I think it's the media narrative, like I was saying before. So something like climate change. Climate change doesn't exist as a science on an island. It has vast implications in the economy, the political landscape, the way we're producing energy, the energy market itself. Like, it has grand implications. So when you're thinking of like science that stands on an island, like the Big Bang Theory, like whether it was the Big Bang Theory that started the universe, or I don't know, like it just,
We will touch on
or
that.
the universe was always here. Like, I don't know.
I think we need to touch on this.
Whether that goes either way, it's not greatly going to affect society. People aren't overly interested in this. Scientists can just be in their lab studying this kind of stuff, and people are largely going to leave them alone. Like, yes, it's interesting. Everybody wants to know how the universe started, but nobody really cares. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to affect anything.
Yeah.
So climate change, it's largely the issue itself is largely political. So
To you, we think is political,
yes, it's very political. So inherently very political.
but nature is being destroyed,
Yes.
and why shouldn't it be political?
So the reason
Why it should be political too? I want you to look at
regardless of whether it should be or shouldn't be political, it's inherently political. So it's going to be political. Just starting with that, if you were to look at what like somebody on the right would think, like a right-wing person,
all right,
they would be more in favor of building, expanding the economy, making a personal profit, very like little regulation behind doing anything.
But right now, too, we are in an era of rewriting human history, where there is a transition from it's already happening.
Yeah.
The information age, and that's what the WEF calls Industrial Revolution 4.0.
Right.
Do you think that once we are transitioning into this more of a AI era, are you going to see less of climate, like the environment being destroyed?
No.
Or we are going to see more?
I don't think
for that
it's,
you don't have any idea of how things are going to unfold with time.
I don't think the two are very related, to be honest with you.
Whoa,
Yeah.
why?
I mean, whether the AI exists, you're going to need your car to get to work. You're going to need to heat your house. You're going to need to, but the factories are still going to make the things you need. Like I don't think that there's going to be.
So it's not going to have any impact on
nothing's going to change
on the environment.
No, I don't think so. Like, I mean, don't
you think they are going to double? Okay.
There is this which may have an impact on the environment. I'm not sure to like the extent of the environment, because with the massive amount of servers you're going to need to power this stuff, you're going to need computer room air conditioning equipment. So there's going to be like a lot of refrigeration and air ventilated out. But the refrigeration process is kind of the recommended green initiative to battle like burning natural gas to heat your home, right? So they're using that same refrigeration process in the heat pump to heat and cool your home, and which is the Canadian government is giving people $5,000 to $10,000 to install one in their home over the last few years.
Which is a good initiative, right?
No, it's not. It's a terrible initiative, and here's why. Canada, one of the largest land masses in the world, occupies a relatively small population per capita. So mandating a heat pump, or not mandating, or giving taxpayer money away for a heat pump might be a bad idea, just based on the fact that the consumer isn't going to save any money. The heat pump's not going to work if it's too cold out. And natural gas is 1/10 of the cost of electricity right now in Ontario.
Okay.
So you'll see some of these bad actors who are kind of on this mission to decarbonize the planet that will tell you a heat pump's going to save you money on your house, when the truth is it's not. It's going to cost you a lot to install. It's going to cost you a lot to run your house. It's a bad idea.
Decarbonizing is going to help improve a lot of like things in the environment, to help us like be productive and more healthy in the days ahead of us, so that we can actually, grow the economy.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weak link, though. I mean,
Like,
I think $5.3 billion would grow the economy a lot more than heat pumps would. But there's so many different initiatives you could put that $5.3 billion in to grow the economy, or help the 1 million homeless population living in the city right now.
But
not homeless. Helping the 1 million people under the poverty line. Like, you could be giving out small business grants. They could be giving you a small business grant for your podcast. This money is like, it's everybody's money. It's our tax money, right?
Yeah, but there are other like policies and that grant like these it gives out grants to projects that actually bring a value to the economy.
Yeah, exactly. Or value to people's lives, right?
Yes. And don't you think that 5.3 billion investment is a good one? Because at the end of the day, we are trying to protect the environment in a way that we will lessen destruction.
Yeah, so I
nature.
I do like I really enjoy nature. I'm a mountain biker. I'm always in the forest like most of the time, most of my leisure time. And I like to walk through the forest and be in nature versus more of like a cityscape. And I do agree with that sentiment, not to build. However, if you polled most people on what their like main topics of concern are, or what their priorities are, a lot of it would be involved with the economy, providing for their family, making more money. So if you were to poll people, would you make this sacrifice to help the environment, or would you make that sacrifice to help the environment? A lot of people would say no, given if they knew what it actually was.
But after the conception to the completion of this investment, have you gotten time to study the impact that it had on the Canadian economy? Because right now, according to certain information that I personally gathered for myself, if you're looking for the top 5 places where the air quality is great or best in the world, Toronto is number one.
Yeah. Well,
So which means that you know
I mean,
it had a positive impact.
yeah, like, I mean, Canada's already, like, if you look at per capita, Canada is one of the worst polluting countries in the world when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions per capita. So the reason Canada has clean air is because there's just such a large space with so little people.
With
But
this, I don't know about this.
If
but
you
I'll
go
try and
per
research on
capita,
it.
and
Okay.
it's not because we're polluting that much, it's mostly because it's cold here. We have to heat the house to warm the air in the cold weather, you know. Like there's no real way around it other than the heat pump, right? So that's why they're putting in money for the heat pump. You cannot burn natural gas with the heat pump. But when you're looking at like the carbon content in somewhere like China or India, you can go over some of those places and all you can see is black in the sky. So like, yeah, this is probably a bad idea, and I don't necessarily agree with like coal-fired plants and burning this dirty
My
crude
apologies
oil.
for interfering. So why don't you believe in the coal? No, and yes, though, like you kind of never align with the investment done by the government to improve how things are being done so that they can get things environmentally correct
Right.
in here.
Yeah, so like when you're burning stuff like coal and crude oil, it's kind of dug right out of the ground. So when you burn natural gas, there's products of combustion like methane, ethane. It releases all these other gases, which are the products of you burning that fuel. So when you burning something like coal or crude oil, it's burning. There's a lot more products of combustion that are being taken out of that, right? With the natural gas, it's very efficient.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because
So you're burning like a lot of stuff in the coal and the crude oil that isn't necessarily contributing to your process.
okay.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask this. Do you think that people truly understand the topic climate change well,
No,
as is currently happening
No.
with AI?
no, because it's largely become like a political thing. Like I was saying before, like
Yeah.
I'm on the left. I'm not on the left. I'm clearly on the right. We've been talking for like half an hour. But I like as somebody on the left hearing this, they would say there's a 98% consensus. You're ruining the planet. You're a fascist, you know? And it's like, well, it's not that cut and dry. It's not that black and white. Nothing really is. If you look at like climate alarmism or the precautionary approach, so there's a lot of things we don't know. The climate scientists have been measuring the global temperature and carbon content in the atmosphere for less than 100 years. So there's a lot we don't know. So they can dig in deep into that. They can go to the ice and they can find CO2 trapped in the ice, how long ago that ice formed, and what the CO2 content was at that time. But that's still a very small sample size, and you can't really trust that. And then there's also the tree ring analysis. They cut open the tree. They see how the tree was growing based on how much carbon is in the air, because trees eat carbon to live.
Yeah.
So when you're basing all this information off of something that's kind of unverifiable, just like the Big Bang Theory, we can't ever know if the Big Bang Theory is real. You can only theorize it. So this is all largely based on theories. So when you create these models and these predictions, a large amount of times they've been wrong. I mean, if you look at like people in 1970s were saying we're all going to be dead by the 90s, you know, or like you have like Greta Thunberg, she's predicted the end of the world like 3 or 4 times and hasn't come yet. So a lot of the models they were basing it on were kind of doomsday theories. And a lot of the climate scientists was kind of an underground thing up until the Al Gore video. Are you familiar with the Al Gore video?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
So during the 2000 American U.S. election, it was George Bush versus Al Gore. So
Yeah.
Al Gore was a Democrat. George Bush was a Republican. George Bush's family is basically oil star of Texas. Like they're a big kind of player in that game in that area. So after the election, Al Gore went around challenging Florida. He said Florida was rigged. They rigged Florida. There's no way Florida would have voted Republican. Now seeing Florida now, you're like, that sounds stupid. But at the time, Florida only voted Democrat. Or it was supposed to in that election. So after the election, Gore went on to make a video called An Inconvenient Truth.
Inconvenient truth.
Which seemed... so the truth was a little too inconvenient for George Bush at this time. He was angry about the election. He thought the Republicans didn't play fair. And given all the weird stuff surrounding like 9/11 and all that kind of stuff, George Bush seems kind of shady, and that whole establishment does too. So Gore went out, he made this video, An Inconvenient Truth. The Inconvenient Truth was basically kind of a climate alarmism video. Like, look what we're doing to the planet. We have to wake up. It's based on this hockey stick graph. So everything comes from the hockey stick graph. The hockey stick graph was front and center, right on the book, right on the documentary he wrote, or he wrote a book and made a documentary right on the documentary. And this hockey stick graph was eventually proven to be bad data.
Oh.
So
it was proven to be a bad
data. So the climate.
But how were they able to?
So I'll tell you where the hockey stick graph came from.
Okay.
And why and how it was exposed as being bad data, which is actually a pretty crazy story. A lot of people haven't heard this story. It happened.
And who classified it as such, or as one which was not so-called like bad data?
Bad data. Yeah. So I'll get into the history about this. A lot of people haven't heard this story.
Data too is a
and if you look it up
issue.
on the internet, they're not going to tell you either. So unless you're really good at looking stuff up on the internet.
Okay.
So
that's why we are here on this platform.
So if you can find ClimateGate information, like a real, not independent fact checkers from MSNBC telling you that it's BS right-wing conspiracy, because it's not, it actually happened. So we'll get into this. So back in 2008, there was the head of something called the International Panel on Climate Change. So the International Panel on Climate Change operates out of the University of East Anglia in Norwich, England. So at the University of East Anglia, they're largely a public research funded university. So what they do there is they kind of they build teams of like researchers to research certain topics that affect the public or what have you. I'm not entirely sure like their whole operation, but I just know about the IPCC. So there was right before one of the 2007 IPCC panel on climate change, a hacker hacked into East Anglia's email server. So the hacker got everyone in that university's emails. So we focused on climate change. So the people running climate change was Phil Jones, the head of the IPCC, still is. Keith Briffa, the head of the guy who was doing the tree ring analysis. And then you got another guy called Michael Mann. I believe he was the head of the peer review committee. So all these guys were caught emailing each other, kind of talking about shutting down opposing views to the current narrative. They were caught saying their data wasn't that strong, but they're going to make it seem strong anyways because of what the impact it had from the world. And they were eventually kind of reprimanded in this kind of, not by the law, but by an ethics review committee. So they had to sit in front of an ethics review committee and talk about all this stuff. So in the ethics review community, they were portrayed as kind of being bad actors. They were kind of saying, you weren't being completely honest about this data. And what would make somebody like a scientist not want to be honest about the data? If you think about the IPCC as a whole, why it's getting its funding, where it's getting its funding, if they say there's no huge problem here, they're probably not going to get a lot more funding, and people aren't going to listen to them.
Okay. It's getting interesting.
So are the people who doing the hardcore research on these topics really going to give you a real answer, or are they going to give you an answer that's only going to help themselves? Which for the most part in society, if we look at everybody as an actor, are you given, like me and you are kind of rare cases where we just say whatever we're thinking, but like for the most part, people are kind of playing act in life is what I found.
Yeah. So with this, I wanted to know from your own point again as an observer.
Yeah.
we have seen things happening
Yeah.
with our lived experience on this planet Earth. You being a senior, colleague, a big brother, you have seen a lot of things before, I did.
Yeah.
And you stayed in Canada. You were born here, did
Yes.
everything, like you did everything here.
Right.
Looking back in the years
Yeah.
and trying to do a comparative studies personally for yourself,
Yeah.
how would you describe the climate? Has it really changed? According to
It definitely has gotten like more variable. Like last year was one of the coldest winters I've seen, and it was like the coldest May on record. So, but at the same time,
what does that mean to
if you look at Canadian temperature records, for the majority of them were set in the 1930s, the local ones. So if you look at like most of Ontario, most of the hottest temperature on record was in the 1930s.
1930s?
Yeah, and I've looked at this each individual one, and
So
yeah,
looking at it, and also knowing that you are a good researcher, what do you think were the causes of these?
the climate alarmism.
Yes.
I think climate alarmism isn't a reality. Like people are kind of conning you for political gain. That's essentially what my argument is. So like getting back into what I was talking before. So the during Climategate,
Yeah.
the people let those people keep their positions, and then reasonably argued that the hockey stick graph was bad data. So the hockey stick graph, which Al Gore created the alarmism with, was deemed to be bad data, because they were essentially separating the tree ring analysis with the global temperatures. So they were equating global temperatures, tree ring analysis. So they were filling in a lot of blanks, and it was just very inclusive data. But
And also for the purposes for my viewers who are actually like generic, I want you to explain the tree ring analysis for them.
So I'm not like a fully climate scientist, but I do kind of understand it. So when you cut open a tree, it'll grow rings, and that'll kind of show the age of the tree, because it keeps growing wider and wider over time. And then I think the amount of carbon in the atmosphere directly affects how those rings grow, and the temperature you can kind of tell, but it can't be an exact science. I mean, like it's just not something. Like, even though I'm not a scientist, I wouldn't necessarily say, but once again, I'm evaluating this on the political and economic implications versus the increasing.
No, I don't believe that someone's supposed to be purely scientific to always get to know issues in depth. To me,
right.
I think that the person's passion, interest,
right,
and how the person is able to have time with certain topics, and how they don't just don't read about these things, but follow it. Which yourself, you have had a career in areas that has helped broaden your horizon concerning these things, and
right. So that's an interesting thing to say. Like what kind of like Bruno Latour was saying, like none of these things exist on an island. They exist in an interconnected web that all affect each other. Right. So the scientists, so the whole science and technology study stems from something called underdetermination. So what it is there was like Pasteur versus Pouchet. They were kind of, like the guy who studied milk bacteria for the first time. They pasteurized milk to remove the bacteria. So Pasteur was the guy who invented that. So Pasteur and Boucher were looking at the exact same objective observation. Like they were looking through a microscope, seeing the exact same thing. And then they had two completely different theories about why that was, even though they were looking at the same thing. So what STS scholar would come in and do would be like, look at Pasteur's bias and look at Pouchet's bias and try and examine how that could have led them to think a certain way. So if you look at somebody like Phil Jones from the University of East Anglia, if you look at his bias, like I haven't been on his social media. You could go onto social media and find out he's left wing. I don't know. I don't even know that. And I could tell you that, you know what I mean? Like, so, and that is very anti-academic to just assume something, but for the most part, the academic community is very left wing because they get most of their money from the public sector.
And how many, let's say percentage wise of the populace,
Yes.
how many people do you think that they know that the leftists gets like funding from this political?
How many people like understand this?
Yes.
Very small percentage of the population.
Why do you think that the small percentage
Um,
have less idea on these things?
I think mostly that's a really loaded question. I think it's mostly boils down to media narrative. So here's another funny thing, which kind of contradicts what I said before, but the University of East Anglia did a study on ChatGPT and its bias, and it found that most of these AI platforms have a left-wing bias, coming from that same university that the IPCC operates out of, right? But it's a public research university, so I wouldn't say like the entire stream of academia is left-wing. There's definitely a lot of right-wing people there, or people in the center, but for the most part, there's a huge influence of that, and I do believe that's entirely because they get public sector money. The more left you vote, the more money there is for the public sector. The more money they want to donate to education, or
because the reason why I say I was saying this is that times are changing quickly.
yeah,
And like you said, research, to me right now, according to Sam Altman, he says something that right now we would have access to information. I'm paraphrasing him, not like verbatim.
yeah,
Because of ChatGPT,
mm-hmm.
we can have access to certain information and act as a PhD
right,
candidates.
right,
Because at first, for you to even start research,
yeah,
per the academic requirements, it's supposed to follow a certain structure.
right,
But right now you just have access to any being it phone, iPad, computer.
right.
You go in there is connectivity.
To all information.
All
You can,
information.
I mean,
Yes.
when I was growing up, you couldn't know these things. Like you could basically say anything, and people like might have to believe you because they can't fact check you. Nowadays, you say something, you can just look up on Google whether like they're right or wrong. So I think, but does the availability of information necessarily amount to you receiving the right information? Like
That's what I was trying to boil down to.
So would let's say there's too much information out
Too
there,
much
and there's too
information.
many bad actors giving you false information to further their own agenda. Like I was saying with climate change, like whether the reality of the science points that if we continue on our current trajectory, will we end the planet in 100 years, right? Likely no, but it's a possibility. But with something like AI, you could have just the internet loaded with bad actors trying to influence you for their own personal gain, giving you false information. Like, is the idea that you're going to give people the truth, or you're trying to make somebody think something so you can achieve some stupid goal you have, you know?
Yeah. Because the COVID brought a lot of loss of confidence and trust
Yes.
in public institutions.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the elite.
Right.
Where people started to question their own question.
Right.
And we started having access to tools
Yeah.
which were unusual.
Right.
And people decided to research. And you were talking about AI.
Yes.
And how according to the research, how it's kind of favor certain people's agenda and all those things.
Right.
You could see that even within the AI that we are trying to still use
Right.
to expand our knowledge horizon,
Right.
has certain data that is not complete and very inconsistent which
Right.
can cause hallucination. And currently, there's a study too that says that there is like 50% of like AI slop on the internet, which means
Right.
that like we are losing authenticity.
Yeah, I think when you think about the future and largely who's going to perform all the work or things we want to, right? So I'm thinking at some point in time, there's going to be some people who are going to employ robots to work for them, which is the industrial revolution was the beginning of that, right? It's this AI information revolution. I think it'll kind of just go towards the same ends as the industrial revolution in the sense that like,
But you see, sorry, my apologies for interfering. But you said that you don't see any link between climate change and the AI.
I found one just now, and I think this is what it is. Oh no, not climate change and the AI, but the industrial revolution
okay.
and the AI. I think it's kind of going to be a similar thing in the sense that, so in the industrial revolution, you saw a factory owner say I bought this building, I bought the machines, I brought people in to work for me. I'm going to reap all the profits, and I'm going to pay people as little as I can to get them to do the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is largely where communism stemmed out of, right? Because back in the day, you could have somebody, like I said before, working in a shoe shop factory making shoes all day, and they only make a few pairs of shoes, and they're not very profitable, and you're not producing that much, and it's just a lot less efficient. But the people who are making the shoes are more important. Right? So you have a skill to make a shoe. You become invaluable at that point. They have to find somebody else that has a skill to make a shoe. So the machine kind of devalues that worker's labor and then but at the same time makes that shoe accessible to a lot more people. So the same thing with the AI. Are we going to end up in a space where all our jobs are taken by robots and you're just fixing the robot, and then the guy who owns the robots is collecting all the money? Now that doesn't sound like a very good future for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Because if they're all if all the robots are just employed to do all your work, and if you don't have a skill, you're basically SOL, right?
Can you predict a time frame where this robot projections is going to happen?
It's already started happening. You'll see some Amazon warehouses are fully automated. The robot will just go down the aisle. You say A3, level 4, it picks that box. So that's kind of working in tandem, where the AI is a super organized brain, whereas it's also powering machines.
But I'm not sure that we can
cool.
get to that level of fully kind of automating and allowing robots to
Right.
work, because the gap is huge.
Right.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And I stand to be corrected. Don't you think that like with the climate change too, if we don't invest in there and make sure that we are kind of balancing how the environment is is being mismanaged,
Okay.
because we are here on planet Earth.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we take care of her so that she takes care of us too.
Well,
So that we can have our endeavors and pursuance continue and have a prosperous humanity here.
Right. So the future of humanity and kind of this collectivist agenda, we all need to come together to move as a one government and make decisions from the top. Do you think the people at the top care about you?
Honestly, I don't know.
I don't think they do. I mean, it's debatable.
That's a good answer too.
Right.
But I don't know. Yeah.
So you'll see some people like hardcore libertarians. They think like the highest level of government should be your local government, right? So now we're living in this crazy system where we have your local government, and then you have your provincial government, and then you have your national government, and then you'll have your alliance government, and then you'll have your world government, right? So when you create a problem like climate change, that allows the world government people. So the world government people are kind of like the highest arm of control. Who are these people? I don't know. Why are they doing this? Probably trying to create some type of utopian society where they think they have the right idea and they need to enforce that on the greater will of the public. So I think the global government, much like the IPCC and the University of East Anglia, whether it needs to exist or not, it will try and create reasons for itself to exist. So if you look at something like a global pandemic or
Because
climate change, these all require global policy, global cooperation, global decisions to be made. Not one country can make a decision about what we should do for climate change. If India and China burn hundreds of billions of tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, what does it matter what we do?
So, which means that the utopian concept of like having a one
one world government.
I'm not sure.
If you don't want to get into conspiracy theories or whatever. Regardless,
I don't believe in that.
Whether you believe it's in nefarious in action, there's global organizations that make global decisions for the global population.
It has always been
the
that
UN,
way.
the WEF. The UN was invented in 1943 or 1930 after the First World War.
First World War.
31 or something.
It's 1945 or 1946.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So is there a need for this global government? There's definitely positive, negatives. Are these people good actors or bad actors? We don't know. There could be multiple interpretations, and obviously the people at the top of society aren't really going to give you all those answers.
But we are seeing again the impact of these investments made by the government, how it's shaping the economy, and right now the Canadian clean tech is being exported outside,
right?
Which at the same time it adds value to the economy, brings in revenues,
right?
So I think it was very strategic.
So yeah, so it can be looked at like that as
because I think 70% of these clean tech was exported to the US to bring in revenues.
Right. So yeah, you could look at it like that. Like if you're saying there's a lot of funding for like the heat pump example I gave. Yeah. You could say that it's propping up the HVAC industry. You're selling more HVAC units, more tradesmen have work. So in that sense, it does have a good effect on the economy. But in another sense, you're still taking $5.3 billion from the taxpayer and then
but at the end of the day too, it's going to bring some novel thinking and novel approach to things that were being done that needed improvement, to kind of bridge and shape things in a way that will reduce cost, and also at the end of the day, not negatively impact the environment.
So I think a lot of people, but most people you talk to aren't going to be like, we should ruin the environment. Everybody likes the environment.
Are you sure?
I think so. Like for the most part, nobody wants to throw garbage in the lake and make the lake ugly, or nature is beautiful. Most people want to keep it that way. Can I?
But from our dialogue, and if I'm to refer you back to what you said, that the hardcore leftists do believe in preserving nature, and the right do believe in increasing.
It's not that
we
the left.
We will need regulations to make sure that
It's not that the left is wants to preserve nature more than the right does.
Really?
It's that.
So among the two of them, with you, who do you think that kind of support policies that kind of
It's not that the right wants to ruin nature, it's that they want to prop up economy. And it's not that the left wants to preserve nature, they want an excuse to tax these people, right? So in North America, it's pretty much impossible to tax big business a large amount because they'll just go to another country and then sell it back to you for, you know what I mean? So you're going to come in there, we're going to tax ExxonMobil, XYZ. And then ExxonMobil's like, I'm going to Dubai and then I'm just going to go there and produce it and sell it back to you and you're not going to get anything from me. They're like, okay, right? So when you're looking at like the left saying we need to tax the billionaires, we need to tax the oil companies for some kind of climate equity. So the people, the global organizations and the left will use the term they use the most is climate equity. So what is climate equity? Climate equity is the idea that, say us in North America have been burning emissions into the atmosphere, that we would be benefiting from that directly and then harming other countries, like say Ghana. Okay. This is harming Ghana and Ghana's not even benefiting from that. So how is that fair? So the left wants to turn it as kind of like a tax, more government money. We redistribute the wealth as we see fit. Oh. So the left is always trying, the left and right is more about income distribution.
All right. So Andrew,
yeah.
Before we even end this podcast,
yes,
I would like to get to know your opinion, views,
yes,
suggestions,
right,
recommendations on how we can change things from the top, from the bottom.
From the bottom down?
Yes, individual level.
Yeah, so
individually, what are we supposed to do? Like you said, the government, or let's say the top, they don't care about
right.
So what are we supposed to do, or what is an individual supposed to do?
So I think
because at the end of the day, we are all trying to protect,
our
planet,
our lives, our planet,
yes.
our survival. We're trying to survive and reproduce, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you said it in your question there. It's a more reliance on individualism, you know? When you subscribe to something like a hardcore left or hardcore right, for the most part, you're not doing anything that's going to benefit yourself. You're giving your time and energy to a cause that's really not going to help you. It's just going to help the people who have that vision to control you and help their vision. So like when I get up in the morning, like for me, like it's not going to help me to scroll through social media and then try and form ideas on what I think society should do. And I do that, but it's not helpful to me, you know, like ideally, like if I was to help myself, I would get up in the morning, I would eat a good meal. I would do productive things that are going to make me happy, that are going to increase my wealth to the point where I'm satisfied and that I have enough to live to pursue my own endeavors and my own interests. So I think people should, for the most part, stop getting hijacked by politicians or, big business or whoever wants to use you to complete their end goal. Cause we're all on our own path here and we all have our own goals and we should be free to explore those goals. And I feel like that's what America was created on.
Oh, that's a powerful statement. Yeah. Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you.
Eugene.
Yes. See you in the next coming episodes because we are going to expand on this a lot.